Hello there, English speakers. Here we have a pine and a birch and then some, I don't know what it is, bush. They are very famous. I guess you know many of them. It's impossible to know without any leaves on it. So we are in the boring part with boring trees. But we'll talk about horrible people and see if they can make us wiser or safer at least by knowing about them. But let's start by taking a big, deep breath. So I saw that Tucker Carlson, he was in Qatar visiting some Gaza refugees that were badly hurt in different ways. So that was of course some sort of photo op and virtue signaling, but the way that Tucker Carlson is acting is not fake and theatric. It seems really honest, and he bows down to people in wheelchairs, or at least nodding at them in a, well, compassionate way, which can be fake, but he doesn't come across as fake. So even if Tucker Carlson comes from a very Secret Service kind of family background and media, of course, the worst people in the world, has he a lot of experience with. But still, he seems trustworthy, and so does Candace Owens. But I listened to, I listened to her this morning from her show yesterday. It was a little bit too much ranting, but I think that was a very important thing to listen to. Not because you're very interested in what is happening in Turning Point USA and exactly with the murder of Charlie Kirk, but you learn about people, and these people, you do not want to be close to them, you do not want to listen to them, and now thanks to, well, their behavior, you can very easily spot people who are just evil, lying pieces of garbage, because they go on and are hating Candace Owens, and then you know that's not a good person. I will never trust that person again, and mostly ignore them. So that's what she's doing well. Erika Kirk told Candace Owens to stop lying, and Candace promised her that she will stop lying if she just gets informed about what she's lying about, because she is trying to tell the truth. But that's not what Erika Kirk is saying. And we have a typical Joel, a typical non-person. I will not insult you just because your name is Joel. But Joel, he says that all Christians, men, you have an obligation to tell your wife that she must not listen to Candace Owens, because reasons. They don't need any reasons. They just quote the Bible. You know how Jesus got nailed up to a cross, and then the first thing Jesus said was, you must not listen to Candace Owens because I say so, and I have no arguments whatsoever, and also you're evil and demonic if you support Candace Owens. So that's how they behave. And Erika Kirk and FBI release the damn autopsy and the footage of the shooting. You have the footage of the actual shooter when the shooter is shooting. Why is not that released? Until that, no one will trust you about anything, and you are despicable, lying pieces of garbage. And at this time, I wonder if Erika Kirk was actually trafficking children in Romania. And she has been on shows, and she has answered pre-prepared questions with pre-prepared answers. Total theater. And she has been interviewed by Glenn Beck, who is one of the nicest Zionists. That doesn't say much, but still, and then very wise, who is one of the most horrible Zionists that you can imagine without her actually physically murdering children. So why go to them instead of anyone we can trust? Erika Kirk will not get interviewed by anyone that you can trust, only by demonic pieces of Satan, basically. And maybe Erika Kirk didn't murder her husband, but at this time, as she is behaving, you might suspect her family have connections with people who have access to Egyptian military planes that were going everywhere where Erika Kirk were going. So that was a little bit suspicious, but Erika Kirk doesn't care about that. Maybe because she knows that it was her Egyptian planes. Maybe. I don't rule anything out. And Erika Kirk, for some reason, she has access to Charlie Kirk's mobile phone. Maybe because FBI is not interested or have already checked it. But she says that no, there was absolutely no death threats against Charlie Kirk, even though Harrison H. Smith, some month before Charlie Kirk got murdered, said that there were a lot of death threats against Charlie Kirk. So what she's going on about is just something is very wrong. And Matt Walsh, he was the least despicable person on the Daily Wire. He might say stuff like Israel should have no foreign aid from USA. He is a total piece of garbage. He went out and said that Tyler Robinson should be executed because how did that bullet come from 7 degrees up, according to FBI, straight into his neck, and then it changed direction and went straight down into his chest. You can read all about it in the autopsy report that they are not releasing because they are covering up a murder, basically. So there are some pushes against that. There is actually one way that this bullet could have stopped there, and Chris Martenson, he has been flooded with something that looks like a coordinated effort to push that rubbish narrative. I mean, it is possible that it was a special bullet, an exploding bullet that can change direction, which makes no sense whatsoever, but I mean, it's possible. Of course, we have no evidence of anything that outlandish, and of course, Tyler Robinson had no chance to getting a super special ammunition to his rifle. So that's rubbish. But Matt Walsh, he has disqualified himself, and he increases that disqualification by quoting Jack Pasovich, who is a known demon. He is someone, Pasovich, he is lying, and then he lies again, and then he says that he hasn't been disproven, even though he has been disproven, but he continues to lie just like a Jew. And he is not a Jew, by the way, but he's former Navy intel and has this aura of being a pure psychopathic demon that enjoy harming people, it seems. And he went out and said that Tyler Robinson is clearly guilty because his family has not been saying anything because they are under a gag order and they are threatened by murderers, psychopath like Jack Pasovich, that do not care about the truth. He actually cares about not truth, is my assessment there. Weirdly, when Tyler Robinson actually appeared in court, he was calm and he seemed calm and happy, which is weird as they are calling for getting him murdered. So I'm not sure what that is about. Maybe he has gotten tired of being, I don't know. I can't explain that, and you have to know him well to explain it. Maybe he has evidence that he's totally innocent and sure that he will get out, which is also weird as everyone else is fearing that he will get murdered anytime right now. So that's weird. Tim Pool is yet again, as every day, proving that he's a total piece of garbage. And now he's saying that Candace Owens had said for months before Charlie Kirk got murdered that Charlie Kirk was someone who she hated. So if you believe that Candace Owens publicly saying nice things about Charlie Kirk, but in private to everyone who Tim Pool knows, were saying that, yeah, I really hate Charlie Kirk. That makes no sense whatsoever. Tim Pool is a lying piece of garbage. And then you have all politicians or pundits or whatever, Republicans of different kinds. They can't do anything, the Republicans. So they are in charge of the House, in charge of the Senate, and in charge of Trump, sort of. They have the power in all three parts, and they still can't do anything because of Candace Owens. That's why. And that's why they will lose the midterms, because of Candace Owens, not because of human garbage, toxic garbage, like Randy Fine, that is saying murder all the Muslims in USA because he is a murderous, genocidal Jew that belongs in a camp. And he's saying purely criminal things, so he should definitely be locked up together with Ben Veer. So that's what they are doing. They are blaming Candace Owens conveniently for all their uselessness. I stand with Bryce. I think it's pronounced B-R-Y-C-E. Bryce. He says that he stands with Candace Owens, and that seems to be correct, even if she happens to be wrong about stuff, like UTC, for example, the time zone that she got messed up, but corrected herself quickly. All the ones who are criticizing Candace Owens are doing it vaguely, sometimes for an actual error that she quickly corrects. But generally it's just feelings, emotional manipulations, and they are just explaining that they themselves are human or garbage in human forms. So maybe we are actually totally wrong, me and Candace Owens and all the sane people. Candace Owens might be wrong because the shooter, that FBI know who it is, and they have footage and all the evidence that they need, but the shooter fled to Israel, and they are trying to trick the shooter, the murderer, to come back to USA so that they can arrest, interrogate him, and then execute him. And then all this bad theater from Kash Patel and Turning Point USA would be totally forgiven, and we will say, oh, you did it great, you don't have acting skills that we we will not star you in a movie because your acting skill sucks. But well done anyway, and catching the real killer. I really don't think that. I think it's exactly as it looks like, that this is a big fat cover-up, and most of the people in Turning Point USA are sociopathic Satan worshippers. That's how it looks like, at least. EU sucks. And EU has too many rules. That is, however, not the problem if you are the tyrants, because you can just ignore the rules, apparently. So instead of having an anonymous a unity voting where everyone can veto the decision to, for example, steal the assets from Russia, they will now just do it, because rules doesn't matter anymore, according to EU. And USA has the biggest military in the world when it comes to cost, and the cost is as much as the 10 next biggest or most expensive militaries together. And all this military spending is, of course, 99.99% are not to defend USA, even if Trump has done that a little bit against, well, the border, and he says something about narco boats that you can believe or not. But in general, the military spending is to plunder and destroy for the Jew and waste the taxpayer money, obviously. Grumpy Chinaman, or Grumpy China Guy is he called. When I say Chinaman, I do not mean it as an insulting thing. I just think it sounds funny, like Florida man. So I say Chinaman in that way, and I think that people should not be insulted by something that sounds cute. But the Grumpy China Guy is proving me correct. My prediction about Zoran Mamdani behaving just like any other Democrat is totally true. So Zoran Mamdani is now endorsing a Zionist over another progressive pro-Palestina girl, or lady, I should say. So he acts just like any other establishment politician, just as expected. So this is for the Congress in the New York district, where Zionists get the endorsement from the so-called socialist Muslim. Andrew Torba, he writes on X about that Christianity is the true Judaism, and that the modern Judaism is based on Satan worshipping from Babylon centuries after Christ. I will not argue or talk about that, but that Andrew Torba posted this on X. He has his own platform called Gab, where no one will read his stuff, and the one who will read it, no one will read it, and then people who still read it, yeah, you know what I mean. They will agree with him, usually. So if you want to reach someone who is not yet agreeing with you, you kind of have to post it on X. You can post it on Facebook, sort of, but there you are in a bubble, and all other platforms are not for both sides, which X tend to be. In almost everything, both sides are fighting about it on X, and you see the other side much more on X than any other platform, even though you have a lot of bubbles on X also, but a lot of fighting between the bubbles also. So I wish I could help Andrew Torba to get some people who disagree with him onto his platform, but that seems hard. I don't know how to do it. If you tell him, if you have an oxygenated body, you cannot get the flu, it's said, and therefore there are no viruses. No, that does not follow. I know that if you're not poisoned in some other ways and your body is fully working with oxygenation everywhere, then it works and you are not sick and you are not having problems. That said, that doesn't mean that there are no viruses. But if you insist on that there are no viruses, don't say that. That's useless, as I've been talking about. But then if you manage to explain why people get one sort of sickness, and you say, it's because you are having this toxin, or this thing is happening because of reasons. And here we have one of the many oaks in this town that they don't grow here, as I've said a few times. So yes, if you can explain, just stop using this toxin or stop using this thing that creates the thing that makes you sick in this way, then you help everyone, even if there is something that is self-replicating viruses, and maybe they don't work exactly as the vaccine industry wants us to believe that viruses are working in. But there might be something like viruses. But we don't care about that as long as we know how to protect us from being sick or avoiding to get sick, because we avoid doing that thing that you discovered. So can you please focus on preventing disease and finding out why we get sick, instead of preaching that something is not existing, which is, not productive, I think. So I was ranting about that on Notes, that is somewhat like X, Twitter and Gab, but on Substack. You might have remembered that the Queen, she was one of the few not pedophiles in the English monarchy, and the Queen thought that all Zionists, all Israelis, she said, are terrorists or a child of a terrorist. And still she took this terrorist injection, which was the COVID injection, and she died probably 10 years before her time. She was a healthy old lady, and she might have lived as long as Emma Morano. So Emma Morano is the only person who had lived in 3 centuries. She was born 1899 and lived in 117 years. And she ate 2 raw eggs per day. So that's something that seems to work. I eat yogurt half a liter per day, or kefir, and for breakfast, half a liter of yogurt, then 2 or 3 raw eggs that I put in a blender or with a stick blender, and then some cream in my coffee. I feel a little bit bleh, sort of, after drinking the eggs in my stomach, but together with coffee and the kefir, I feel fine, and you get really full. So every time there is some sort of study of some supplement or, something food-like that should make you healthier, they should test it in a randomized controlled study. Of course, not a blind study, but test it together with the placebo group. Is not a placebo group, but an egg group. And then you see if your substance is better than 2 raw eggs per day, and then you measure the all causes mortality, etc. So that's how I want to see things tested in the future. And with that, now you know about eggs, but Someone was saying to me on notes that you should not drink raw eggs that you have bought from the store, because in the grocery store they are stored for months and therefore they are very old and you have to cook them. That's retarded. I will say it right out. That's dumb. If eggs are bad, you will smell it. You will not be avoiding to smell a bad egg. They stink like hell. And if you eat an egg that has become bad, it doesn't matter if you cook it. Generally, when food gets bad, it's not because it contains bacteria that's the problem. It's because of the dead bacteria. When bacteria dies, they don't like that. So they produce toxins when dying. And that's the toxins that are dangerous. And you can cook them, whatever, and the toxins will still be there and cause cancer in your rectum, basically, and other places, and make you sick. There are, of course, sometimes when you get bacteria that you eat that can make you sick, but if you have a perfectly working stomach, your very sour stomach will take care of that. Humans have one of the most acid stomachs among other mammals and birds even. So your stomach should be very sour, and then you have not that problem. But don't eat rotten food. And I will recommend, I and all the monkeys that you know of and apes will definitely recommend against eating century eggs. So this is a Chinese delicacy, an egg that you put in a non-oxygen environment, and then you make it really, really rotten, and then you eat it. Don't do that, is my advice. If you like them and you know that you're not getting sick of them, well, eat them. But me and monkeys, we say, no, don't eat them. They smell.